I'm really glad that we're getting to this one. Not sure where I agree with your Arkansas segment yesterday, which was, last week. Pre-Hugh Freeze era at Ole Miss around 10 years ago, if you would have asked what is the better program, Ole Miss or Arkansas, the answer was clearly Arkansas. So this is pre-Hugh Freeze, early Bobby Petrino at Arkansas. I don't see any reason Arkansas can't hire their own Lane Kiffin or Shane Beamer and have every bit the ceiling that those two programs have, which is that they expect to be competing for a playoff spot. Arkansas has been just as good or better program over the course of your lifetimes than Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vandy, South Carolina, Missouri, and Texas A&M, although Texas A&M clearly has a higher ceiling. John is exactly right. Arkansas has played 3 times in the SEC championship game. South Carolina's only done it once. Missouri's done it once. Now, obviously, Missouri entered the league later. Kentucky's never done it. Mississippi State's done it once. Ole Miss has never done it.
I think more than their coaching staff. They need to go find Darren McFadden again. That would help.
Yeah, Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, and Peyton Hillis on the same team. Same team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if my message was that you're hopeless and just give up.
No, but what I think John's right in a lot of ways. Like Arkansas was this, but I also think there's only so much room for success at that level, and so the fact that Ole Miss is where it is because of Lane Kiffin, and Missouri is where it is because of Eli Drinkwitz, might be blocking Arkansas right now. Like one of those may have to drop before Arkansas can rise.
The question that I take from this is, can everybody in the SEC be very, very good, and then the rest of the country deteriorate as a result of it? The thing is, if Arkansas buys into its program at a more serious level than everybody in the Big 12 and everybody in the ACC, there's obviously going to be a glass ceiling.
Already do that.
There's going to be a glass ceiling of how much you can accomplish in your own conference. But I think that what we were talking about more than anything is that Sam Pittman is being perpetually thrown onto the hot seat for not being Shane Beamer. Right. It's not that they're not accomplishing.
By the way, will we get thrown on the hot seat this year if he goes 7-5? Shane Beamer, I'm talking about.
But yeah, I think that what the real issue here isn't, and I'm happy this question was asked because John is right, but the question isn't, can Arkansas hire somebody that can take them to the next level? The question is whether or not the things that are happening within the program now and the record that they have from their current coach is the reason he's on the hot seat. And the reason he's not on the hot seat is because he isn't a young, buff, excited dude that's going to help them win 10 games in a random year. Now, the thing that's interesting is that we're really high on South Carolina right now, and they have Lenora Sellers, and a lot of that, I think is happenstance of where his recruitment went and how they ended up getting him. If South Carolina goes 6-6, they are back into the middle of that blip team in the SEC. We're riding a pretty big wave of a good year last year, and them having a good year this year is not guaranteed. I wrote a column about this literally on Thursday. So, I think that Sam Pittman being on the hot seat is more about who he's not than who he is.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. But I go back to what I was saying. I don't know that a lot of these teams can be good at once. I think it's probably limited. The list that John gave us of Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Missouri, Texas A&M, probably only about half of those teams can be good at once. Vandy is good for Vandy right now. Mississippi State, I think, is in a bad spot where I don't know that Mississippi State can be really good again until Lane Kiffin's not at Ole Miss anymore.
Andy, 10 of the teams of the 16 in the SEC have a national championship ceiling. That's you have to say it out. In the past,
that's the hardest part for the and for the ones that aren't. Yeah,
when we had a Power 5 and the Pac-12 still existed, the tentpole programs were more spread out. So Oklahoma and Texas are the two Big 12 national championship ceiling programs. In the Pac-12, you remove those from the SEC, and it also allows for more room for a Cinderella season, because in most years, if Arkansas is having a dynamic year, when they had Ryan Mallett and those guys, and they were killing it, they didn't have Texas and Oklahoma on that season's schedule that year. Like,
correct.
They didn't have to go through those teams. They've got to go through everybody now, and that makes the prospect of having those Cinderella, which is what makes what South Carolina did so impressive last year.
Yeah. And by the way, Arkansas plays at Memphis and brings in Notre Dame at home in the non-conference.
Yeah. And like, what if Texas was just Vanderbilt? That would have been an old schedule. They would have had to play Tennessee and LSU, but now if you've got to play Texas and LSU in back-to-back weeks.
Well, I don't know. They had the SEC West schedule, so those were pretty narrowly where you had to play Alabama, LSU,
you know and then of course if you get through that by chance in the division era, you didn't have Texas waiting for you on the other side. So, I mean, I think I agree with the question, but what do you do? Like, do you try to go make a gimmicky hire to go get somebody who has passion? And like, I mean, like, who do you go get? And that's the other thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I say this for every program. You go try to find a Kirby Smart, and you're probably not going to. There aren't many of those. But you go try to find a Kirby Smart or a Marcus Freeman or somebody who can be dynamic and lead your program and elevate your program. That's what you try to do. It doesn't mean you can.
Hey, can we do a tinfoil hat Friday here real quick too?
Yeah.
I think I have this theory. And I always go off the rails with this shit, so I'm sorry. But I have this theory that because agents are involved, because NIL is so prevalent, and because we're so concerned with the personnel in a way that, like, we've always been concerned with personnel, but we're obsessed with it now in a way that we haven't before.
Right.
In terms of what they're making and what their earning powers are and all that. That the thing that has taken a back seat, and it's funny that I'm going to say this on the same episode that we talked about Mike Bobo, is that coordinators and up-and-coming coaches are like lower down on the totem pole of attention. And I think it's harder for us, me and you and general fans across the country, to pinpoint the star up-and-coming coaches that used to be all over the place. I think that there's a reason why it's harder to find, like when Nick Saban and was retiring, to find a board of 10 people that could take that job. And maybe that's a bad example because Alabama's its own animal.
It's such a hard job, yeah.
Like, if Arkansas were to fire Sam Pittman today, like, your hot board would not be filled with names.
Well, like, it would start with Rhett Lashley because that's home for him. But then you would say, is SMU a better job than Arkansas at this point? Because they'll pay you a bunch of money and you could actually win your league.
I think between NIL agents, head coaching salaries, buyouts, and NIL deals, it's harder to pay attention to the other part of the sport, which is people who have been working in positions who have done a good job at places aren't as big of stars as they used to be. So nothing feels like a home run anymore. And I do think too that, like, there have been a lot of coaches, like when Lane Kiffin got hired at Ole Miss, like, Lane Kiffin's name reverberated. Like, he could recruit to that. That was a move. That felt like, like the Fickle to Wisconsin-ish type hires just aren't there anymore.
We'll see. I wrote a story on coordinators who could be head coaches this time next year. At On3, so you can read that now.
And how many of the names on that list, Andy, are like big time moves in fans' minds?
That's the question. Like, what do you think if Buster Faulkner got hired as your team's head coach?
I don't think 95% of people who listen to
know who that is.
Tell you who that is. Yeah.
Okay. Or Will Stein or Andy Kotelnicki or Mike Shanahan.
Who's the most recognizable name on that list? Kotelnicki?
Colin Klein, because he was a Heisman Trophy finalist.
Kotelnicki, because he's reviving an offense that has a potential first-round draft pick at a quarterback? Yeah. I don't know.
Glenn Schumann, because he's Georgia's DC. Will Stein, because he's Oregon's OC. So Kotelnicki probably.
You think a USC fan knows who Glenn Schumann is?
Probably not.
And if Glenn Schumann got hired at Arkansas, that would be a great move. I would love that for them. Would they be excited about it? I don't know. I'm just
making producer River sad. I got Tim Banks on that list. I got Tennessee's DC on that list.
Hate to see it.
That dude does a good job. But yeah, and then I've got a list of group of 5 coaches. That's going to come out next week. And yeah, it's not necessarily like before, like when Urban Meyer was the coach at Utah, which was a group of 5 or group of what, I don't even know how many conferences were in the group at that point, but it was a Mountain West school. everybody knew that Urban Meyer was the guy next, even before the Florida and Notre Dame jobs opened and they started fighting over him.
Yeah. The who's next category is a much shallower bucket. That doesn't mean they don't exist. It means that the fanfare that comes with the hire isn't there, and then the boon and the wave of talent accumulation momentum is gone, which makes it harder to build a program like Arkansas, right?
I don't
think exactly Lane Kiffin is like falling out of the sky, you know?
Well, and Lane Kiffin is one of those people who just moves the needle in a way that we don't always understand why. Like anything Lane Kiffin does moves the needle, and that's kind of unusual.
But you know what? One converse thought to me, to what I said. I think Fran Brown could have been on your lists, and nobody would have known who Fran Brown was. And
100%.
Everybody knew who Fran Brown was because Fran Brown is Fran Brown. You know,
and I'm telling you right now, Fran Brown against this gnarly ass schedule that Syracuse has to play this year, if he wins 7 or more games, if I'm an AD, he's at the top of my list.
If Fran Brown got hired by Arkansas, you'd be like, oh shit.
I would definitely be. I would say that if Fran Brown got hired by Maryland, got hired by Auburn, like
Maryland would be good.
Yeah, all of those, I'd be like, oh shit.